Happy Monday morning. So just going to go through a couple of bits of housekeeping. So welcome to your session with Chrissy Levett, who will be talking to you today about the creativity for positive social and environmental impact. We hope you enjoyed today's session and get as involved in the week as much as possible. We'd love you to share the week with us by posting photos on your social media accounts, using the hashtag IW22, by tagging Confetti on Instagram and Twitter. You'll be entered into an IW22 photo competition. The best photos will be voted for by you, and the winner will give a £50 Amazon voucher. Don't forget, you can still book on to your upcoming events by going to iw.confetti.ac.uk. Make sure you sign in using your Confetti or NTU email address, and you can also check out previous year's talks and masterclasses on demand. So, lastly, just kind of going through the emergency procedures, just in case there's a fire alarm. So in the event of a fire alarm, please make your way up to the nearest fire exit and go to the corner of Brook Street to the right of the building. Finally, if you're currently in your final year of an undergraduate course, it's worth noting that the NTU employability team are offering extra careers coaching appointments next week to help you get ready for your next steps. Look on the Employability Learning Room for more information. And I'll introduce you to Chrissy Levett. No worries, coming up.
Hello everyone, thank you. I appreciate you getting up at this time in the morning to come and join us. Wow, that's quite something. I'm just going to click back through my videos. All right, I'm going to show lots of, I feel like I'm a prisoner of war here trying to escape something. Well, maybe I'll get some dark glasses out. Sorry, yeah, dim the lights. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to show lots of videos. I guarantee that by the end of this session, you will be inspired. I don't know if you people in the corner there can see. Can you see all right? You sure? Yeah, okay. I'm very happy if you want to shift yourself out over there if it's easier to see. I could duck a lot, then I could see your faces. Anyway, thank you so much for showing up. Really appreciate it, especially this early on a Monday morning. Right, I'm going to run this video, if that's all right. Thank you so much, guys. If you are interested in what we do, we're going to encourage you to, get involved with our community because we have an amazing community. Welcome. I'm going to start with a small fact, and this is something that when I found this out made me laugh quite a lot, but it's very interesting. That as of 2015, a human being has the attention span of just 9 seconds. A goldfish has the attention span of 8 seconds. Actually, I think it might be the other way around. How mad is that, right? Now, that's due to our phones and everything that we engage with, right? We're constantly looking for dopamine hits. So my challenge to you today is, if you choose, please be present to what we have to say and what we're going to show. You're going to enjoy this session. So, I am concerned about these ladies in the corner. Ladies in the corner, can you really see? Are you okay? You sure? All right, I can't see you. That unnerves me. All right, as long as you're okay, I'm very happy for you to move if you need to. So, what to expect? Well, we're going to talk to you about creative conscience, and we're going to imagine a better world. Who in the room right now feels like it's a bit of a, am I allowed to swear? No, I probably shouldn't swear. It's a bit of a shit show right now. Who feels that? It's like you watch the news, there's stuff going on, and it feels quite, hopeless and stuff like that. Well, that's what I'm so confident about. By the end of this talk, you're going to feel empowered and positive. There's darkness and there's light in the world, and we have a choice. We can stand in the light, even though it's a bit painful right now, or we can choose to engage with the darkness that is fed to us on a daily basis. So we're also going to talk about the why, the how, the what, and the what if of our organisation. We're going to show you some amazing creative projects that have been built by people just like you. Maybe, a year or two older, but people just like you. And those projects have changed the world, positively changed the world. In some cases, they have touched the lives of millions of people, right? So it's not about myself or some big fancy agency. This is about people who are using their creative energy to build positive action. And then I'd like to share with you a little session that we're going to do on the 16th. If any of you like what we do, you can join a live Q&A session online, and you can ask us questions about what we do in real time, because we might not have time today. And then we're going to tell you how to connect with us as an organisation. If you've got any questions, I'm not going anywhere. I'm happy to hang around, and you can jot those down in a pen and paper. I'm just going to start with this disclaimer. As an organisation, we deal with some of the world's biggest challenges, and that includes things like mental health, war and crisis, equality, and some of the things that we might be showing you today could trigger things in you. And I just want to warn you, if there's something that is upsetting you in any way, please feel free to leave the room. We can talk about that afterwards, but don't feel like you have to sit there and feel uncomfortable. I have to warn you. I hope it's all going to be okay. So this is our call to action.
The choice. What will you do with your creativity? Will you create more hate, waste, destruction, corruption, sadness, madness, pain, shame, isolation, and exploitation? Or will you create more happiness, hopefulness, empathy, stability, honesty, equality, regeneration, preservation, opportunity, and unity? Let's create change. Not just more of the same. Creative conscience. If you are a creative and want to help make the world a better place, join our movement at creative-conscience.org.uk.
It will also have a YouTube channel with lots of videos and stuff like that. We set up 10 years ago, actually. It's our 10th birthday this year, and we are a community-built organisation. We have been built by people across the creative industry who 10 years ago believed that as an industry we should be making positive difference in the world. And why? So I always start with this quote from Albert Einstein. And Einstein said, "The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything." Think about that just for a second. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. There's a very famous Holocaust survivor who said the opposite to love is not hate. The opposite to love is indifference. And I think it's very easy for us to be indifferent because we feel like we can't do anything, but we absolutely can. And I want to start with telling you this story because I want you to understand that we can all make positive change in the world. About 2 years ago, I learned that financial institutions that sit in our high streets, had actively, knowingly laundered more than $3 trillion of what's called dark money. This is money that comes through the dark web. It comes from things like the arms trade, child pornography, modern slavery. Now, these are organizations that we bank with, right? They're on our high streets. And there was nothing. They just washed their hands of it and no one was doing anything. I was so mad. At the same time, I went to visit my mother. My mother lives just outside London in a little 60s flat on the ground floor. It's all covered in flock wallpaper. My mum's not a designer, so when I go there, it makes my eyes bleed because it's really kitsch and stuff. So I walk in, see my mum. It's just before lockdown, and I sit down, and as mothers do, she started, I have to say, from a place of love, but she started, oh, look at the state of you, what are you wearing? Oh, you look terrible, your hair's a mess, you've got dark rings around under your eyes, you're working too hard, and on and on. And I'm ashamed to say, on this particular occasion, I broke down. And I said, Mum, look, we cannot stop doing the work that we are doing. We have to make a difference. It's our duty, right? And she looked up at me with glazy, grey, hazy eyes, and she said, yes, but Chrissy, I'm 90 years old. I'm half deaf. I'm half blind. What do you want me to do? I wasn't asking her to do anything. I was just asking her not to give me a hard time. Anyway, I said, look, Mum. So I've been talking to my mother about her bank for probably at least 25 years. And my mother, can I just check? Are you filming this? Okay. My mother banks with a bank that I'm not going to mention because I don't want to get my arse sued. But she banks with a bank that during the apartheid regime, when virtually the rest of the world put sanctions on that despicable apartheid regime, this particular bank didn't. So it's a terrible bank. It's on our high streets. You can Google it if you want to find out more. And I've been talking to her about moving her bank for so long. I said, Mum, please, please just change your bank. So we left the conversation. I didn't want to kind of upset her, and I left the room. Went back to London, lovely, lovely. 1 week later, I got an email from my brother who deals with my mum's sort of stuff. And he said not only had she moved her bank to Nationwide, which is an ethical bank, but she had also changed all her utility bills to 100% renewable. And I tell you this story because it doesn't matter if you're 9 years old or you're 90. We all have the power to make a difference in the world, and it comes through choice. So why does creativity matter? Well, you might not believe that your creative talents can make a difference in the world, but you absolutely can. Creativity is a political act. Every single thing we choose to create, design, build, make, manufacture affects society, and it matters. If we look back in history to even before these movements, to the abolishment of slavery movement, to the suffragettes, to the civil rights movement, it all came from creative thinkers who could see there was a different world. It's so powerful. And this is my favorite piece of graphic design ever. So during the suffragettes movement, these ladies here who were trying to get votes for women, what a group of women did, and women died for us to get the vote in this country. Anyway, they stamped by hand votes for women on these penny coins. And these penny coins then got into society. They infiltrated at every level society, because obviously it was before social media, right? It's just the simplest, most brilliant piece of graphic design. But not only that, at the time, the Bank of England wouldn't have retracted these penny coins because it was going to be too expensive for them to reissue them. Just genius, right? And creativity comes in all forms, right? It doesn't matter what you're into. It could be knitting, you could be into yard bombing, you could be into music, you could be into baking. It doesn't matter. Every form of creativity can make a difference. So I have a question for you right now. Who would like to be on the right side of history? Put your hand up if you think you'd like to be on the right side of history. Who feels like we need to change things? Great. I can just about see you. I'm in the room. I'm in the right room, otherwise I'll leave now. Thank you. So I want you to try and, it's quite hard, but I want you to understand that the world is changing so fast that by the time you leave your education, it will be a very different world than we stand in right now, okay? And for example, in global markets, the fastest growing stocks are in clean meat. That's coming out of the west coast of America. Now, clean meat is meat that will be grown in laboratories. That might sound absolutely disgusting, but it's the only way we're going to be able to feed the 8 billion population that's going to be on the planet. Industrial agriculture is going to be on its knees in just 5 or 6 years. And if you, who has Netflix or can access Netflix? If you can watch something, make a note of this. There's a fantastic documentary called Kiss the Ground. It's not negative, it's really positive. Industrial agriculture is worse for our planet than coal and oil, even though we're not told that. So what we eat and how we behave can change, can absolutely change the world. So do watch that documentary. Another thing that you might not realize, but on mass scale production of combustion engines that use oil will be on its it will be on its knees. There will be no large-scale production of combustion engines anywhere on the planet in just 2 or 3 years. Now you're probably, if I'm guessing, will just be coming out into the world. That's not long, right? Imagine that. Everyone's driving around. There will be no mass production of those combustion engines. So the world's changing really fast. And I want to tell you this because I want you to think about what you want in your portfolios. What do you want to be representing as you step into the world? Because in 3 to 5 years, it's going to be a very different world than it is right now. So what we do as an organization, we empower, inspire, educate, train, and reward creative thinkers to apply their talents to socially valuable projects promoting sustainability, regeneration, freedom, social health, and well-being. And this is our call to action to you.
Conscience, a moral sense, our behaviour, actions, and words, an opportunity to fight for what is deserved. We represent our kind because we care. We speak up because things ain't fair. We are many with many more to come. Creativity is an opportunity to get good things done. A chance where we have full-blown capacity to aid, comfort, and restore a bit of humanity. But things don't change if we look the other way. So let's raise our voice and say what we gotta say. Because if we all stay silent, it all stays the same. I can't live with that. Could you live with that blame?
So we call ourselves positive creative activists and creative mischief makers. And I want to tell you, so I'll tell you a bit about what we do as an organisation, but I also want to talk to you as you're coming out of this pandemic. And for a lot of people, they might feel shut down or scared or nervous. But Paul Romer, who's an amazing economist, said, "A crisis is a terrible thing to waste." Think about that. Crisis is a terrible thing to waste. So we might feel like this is a terrible time, we might feel anxious, but that fear stops us from being our greatest selves, right? Where, as I said, where there's darkness, there's light. Where there's something that is broken, there is an opportunity for us as creative thinkers to think about how we might fix that or change that. I want to tell you about this project that we did as a kind of agency, if you like. So I talked a bit just now about the news, right? The news just feeds us negative crap all day long, right? Who thinks that? Who can get that, right? You never hear about great stories, right, coming out of our mainstream media, do you? During the very beginning of the first lockdown, this stuff was being fed to us. It's still being fed to us. And what they weren't telling us actually was that when human beings are in a state of fear or anxiety, our stress hormones go through the roof, right? Cortisol levels go mad. Now, what that does is it oppresses our immune system. So these guys are actually making people die faster because they're suppressing people's immune systems. Why aren't they talking about that, right? It's crazy, crazy. So we weren't very happy, and at the same time, we got a phone call from a guy called Keith Nielsen. He owns a load of outdoor advertising, digital advertising space, and him and a mate in Ireland had managed to hack into Sir John Hopkins live data. And they could show on screen the total recovery rates of people getting over the pandemic. He said, we want to do something mischievous with this data. What can you do? So we put out a brief to everyone that we knew saying, look, we want to be able to show the recovery rates on screen. And this idea that came was about using just really simple typography. So it said death, fear, tragedy, which was stuff was coming through the news. And it just spelled out the words defeated. And this was done by a student actually at Leeds. This was her idea. We worked with her to make that a reality. And this image here was the first place that it went live. It was in Ireland. This is that campaign in 10 sites in Times Square in New York. The campaign went viral. It was really, really poignant to me. You can see here it was up to 18 million of total recovery rates. And the reason we did this was try to counterbalance the news that we were getting on a daily basis. It was so poignant to me because in July of 2020, Franklin Madison was my mentor. He was African American. He'd been born in the Bronx of a single mum and had made an amazing life for himself against all odds. He was my mentor. I would speak to him every single day. Incredible human being. But in July of 2020, Franklin died. He didn't die of COVID. He died because he was too afraid to go to the hospital and get the treatment that could have saved his life. He was 61 years old. That's why it's really important for us to be in action, people. That campaign went on to more than 15 countries. It was seen by millions and millions of people across the world. This is in Southeast Asia, into Africa. Amazing. This campaign didn't cost a penny. It was just a group of people who believed that we should be telling a different story, coming together and making it happen. And that's available to every single person in this room. So what we do also is we run an award scheme. It's a global award scheme. Anyone in this room is welcome to enter it. Even 2 years after leaving education, you can chuck us anything you like against anything that matters to you. And to date, we've had more than 5,000 purpose-driven projects sent to us from more than about 97 nationalities, and at the heart of every single project is this idea of social and environmental impact. So how do we start to think about using, because this might feel like, well, I don't know how to do this. How do we start to think about change? Well, it all starts with imagination, which is great news because that's all of us. We're creative thinkers, right? And I'm going to quote Einstein again. Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. That's mad, right? How does that work? Imagination is more important than knowledge. For knowledge is limited to all that we now know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there ever will be to know and understand. So creativity is sadly, with our system, our education system, I don't know, my experience was dreadful at school, but it wasn't something that was celebrated. Well, right here, right now, in this room, in this institution, you are being celebrated as creative thinkers, and the world needs creative thinkers more than ever. So never ever think of yourself as a second-class citizen, or if you're not academic, you are where you're supposed to be, and you are an instrument for change. So let's play a little game. I'm going to get you to do something for me now. So I'd like you to imagine something, okay? So if necessary, close your eyes, and I'd like you to imagine a world. I'd like you to imagine a world where every single thing that we create, that we design, that we build, that we write, that we even manufacture, serves humanity and our planet. Imagine that world just for a second. Every single thing that we create serves humanity and this planet. That would be a very different world, right? It would be a fairer, more just, healthier, sustainable, and regenerative world. And let me tell you this, that world is possible. For any of you who are feeling cynical in this moment, it is possible, because there are businesses and there are organizations that put people and planet first, and they are successful and they're making a difference. So it is possible. Thank you for imagining that with me for a second. So my name is Chrissy Levett. I'm a creative director. I'm also a designer like you guys, and I'm the founder of Creative Conscience. I'm an accidental social entrepreneur, but I also am dyslexic with dyspraxia, can't spell, and I have ADD. When I was younger, I would have been, or was labelled as, not going to use the R word, but special needs, basically. So if someone like me can do something, then any one of us can do something, right? It's all within us to create change. So what if by the time we left this room, we had decided to make some positive change in the world? What would that feel like, do you think, if we had chosen to do that? Or do you think you might feel good? You might feel a bit better than when you walked in? If you've been watching the news, I know you've been watching the news, because we had a conversation about that. Do you think that would make you feel better if we could agree that we would do something to create impact? And we can do that, and you don't even need to leave your seats. Trust me, we're going to play with that at the end of this. Okay, so let's get inspired. I don't want to carry on barking on, so I want to show you some amazing, amazing creative projects to get you inspired. And inspiration is really important because it leads to actions, right? So if you leave the room today, I'm hoping you would feel like that you're going to take some action. And inspiration propels a person from apathy to possibility and transforms the way we perceive our own capabilities. Inspiration may sometimes be overlooked because of its elusive nature, but as recent research shows, inspiration can be activated, captured, and manipulated, and has a major effect on important life outcomes. But it's also important to understand that inspiration is perishable. So you need to act on it immediately. Have you ever felt like that? You've come out of a situation, you might have gone to see a band, done something, you felt really fired up and inspired, and then like 2 days later, you've fallen off the cliff and you don't know what to do with yourself. So that's why it's really important, out of today, we choose to commit to taking some actions. So let's show you some proof. This is the first project I'm going to show you was by a student. He was actually in Denmark. This project changed the course of that country's history, and he was just a couple of years older than you. So watch this campaign.
Time is running out on climate change. Yet, for the 2019 election in Denmark, climate change was not seen as the primary political issue. The Green Party, the alternative, wanted to change that by creating the ice poster. Made entirely out of ice, it became not only the world's most sustainable election poster, but also the most impactful.
Den altså virkelig kreativ. Det her, det et stykke is.
Og så kunne den ellers hænge der og smelte og dryppe.
Alternativet kalder valget for et klimavalg.
The message of the ice poster was shared by politicians and climate activists from all over the world. As the poster melted away, the urgency to act grew. And drop by drop, it helped change the focus of the election, moving climate change from an issue to the issue.
Jeg vil gerne fra talerstolen erkende, at når Folketinget i dag har rykket sig så langt på klimadagsordenen, så spiller Alternativet også en rolle i det. At valget i juni måned blev et klimavalg.
$14 million social media impressions. It's just the idea of creating a poster out of ice, right? Really beautiful. Changed the conversation of that election. This was a project, I don't know if any of you are illustrators in the room, that was done by Jake. Jake sent us this project before the death of George Floyd. And he won an award with us, and then he went on to be commissioned by Macmillan to do this children's book. So he created the concept, but when Macmillan commissioned him, he had to redraw it against a sort of set plan. And I, at the time, was being mentored by Franklin, who I told you about, and I was talking to Jake and mentoring him about his project. And he told me that Macmillan had asked him to take this image out of his book. And I said, really? I mean, now more than ever, this is a really, you created this, it's a really powerful image, right? And he said, yeah, you know, but hey-ho. I think he didn't have the courage, probably, to question them, because they're a huge organisation. And so we mentored Jake, and he went back into Macmillan and had a conversation with them, and they agreed that an image like this should be included in his book. So, you know, when you go out into the world, you might be told sometimes no by people who think they know better than you because they might be older or whatever. Don't be afraid to seek help if you haven't got the courage to question people yourself, to seek help through us or through other people to find your voice, because that's what's really powerful. This was a project done by some graphic designers, but it's kind of a bit like a materials design project. Rowan and Rob are graphic designers, and they came up with this idea. I'll run the animation, and then I'll tell you what happened to them.
As our population continues to rise, food and material waste management is an ever-growing problem. WRAP estimates a third of all food produced ends up as waste, and the UK furniture sector disposes or incinerates over 140,000 tonnes of MDF a year. So what happens if you group these two ever-growing problems together? Introducing chipsboard. Chipsboard is made using the waste potato peelings created from food processing as an alternative to toxic materials including MDF and chipboard. We collect the peelings from manufacturers and put them through a few refinement processes before manufacture into robust boards. These can then be processed into an array of products, furniture, and other applications. Our production is self-contained as it moves from farm to kitchen to factory, makers, and then consumers. Once the products reach the end of their lifespan, they can be sent to industrial compost ready to become fertilizer back at the farm. This ability to biodegrade products rather than incinerate or send them to landfill will help revolutionize the sustainability of flat pack furniture and pop-up events.
So that was the lads' concept. And they sent their project to us, it's probably about 4 years ago now, and we supported them in that project. And today, it's their job, it's their business. So while they were at college, they created that animation, that idea of using potato peelings to make a new material. And today, they've moved actually from down the south up to Leeds. They have a pilot factory. They have more than 11 employees. So it's all, they've been featured in The Guardian and the BBC, and actually here's Rob talking about his experience.
Creative conscience is something that is really personal to myself and my co-founder. We are alumni of the Creative Conscience Student Awards, and the support that we got through that system actually really helped develop the company at its root stage. So we owe a lot to the to Creative Conscience, and we hope to give back.
Thank you.
So they got basically their funding through our community to build that into a business, and it's their job today. This was a project that was sent to us by Eleanor. It was around bullying and teenage suicide. Eleanor created a graphic novel. It was all done on a Wacom pad. It was 166 pages of beautifully illustrated story. When I met Eleanor, she told me that she was going to give up doing illustration and animation. She couldn't see a future in it. She went on to create another graphic novel on the issues around dementia. This and the other book are sold in the National Museum in Bucharest, where she's from. This book's been translated into several languages. But what's really interesting for us, that it had come from her own personal experience of being bullied. So I'm going to ask you a few questions at the end of this session around what matters to you. And I think it's, from what I understand, it's particularly relevant to the second years in here, because you're going to do a self-initiated project. So how do you find out what you want to design against? Or what matters to you is a really powerful place. Okay, so this project, I'll run it. It's about plastic waste at music festivals.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. I don't want you to protest, I don't want you to ride, I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now, go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore! Get up out of your chairs, open the window, stick your head out and yell, and say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
So that was... And she created that little film of just editing stuff together, and then she had some graphics that went with it. And she sent us this project. It didn't actually win an award. All we want to do is engage people to send us their work, right? It's not actually... doesn't matter whether you win an award or not. It's about getting you to sort of take part, if that makes sense. And we loved this campaign. So what we did was, through our community, we got in touch with someone called Rob DeBank. And Rob is the founder of two huge music festivals here in the UK, Festival and Camp Festival. And we managed to persuade Rob and his team to run that film on the main stage in front of thousands and thousands of people. So again, just getting people aware to the amount of plastic that's wasted. And I think there was, says here, only 32% of that annual waste across the music industry is recycled. Now, recycling is not the future, don't get me wrong. It's about changing materials and not using plastic in the first place. But a really clever campaign. Some of you might be interested in motion graphics.
How do we tell time? How do we find things? How do we think about color? How do our dreams look? How do we recognize others? What is beauty to us?
So C did that. It's a really lovely piece of graphic design. It was for, if I go back, just stop it on the frame. It's just a really lovely, simple idea for the museum around blindness and visually impaired people in the US. Just really clever, really beautiful, really simple piece of design work. Any gamers in the room? Can't see. Put your hand up if you're a gamer. can't really see. A few of you are willing to admit this. This was a really clever idea around war and crisis, really, and gaming, and it's particularly poignant as we sit in the world right now.
There has been controversy about video games causing violence, but these claims were never proven. However, there's a way in which video games cause real gun violence. Call of Duty pays real gun manufacturers to license their weapons in-game, so paying for Call of Duty is also funding real-world violence. Other brands like EA have already cut their licensing deals, and Call of Duty should do the same. To get them to do this, we need their gamers to know. So we made 3 new versions showing where the funded guns could end up. The Syria edition, the Extremist edition, and the School edition. We then replaced the game's packaging in shops. We made them available to buy on eBay, and all directed gamers to a petition against the licensing deals, highlighting why this needs to change and letting Call of Duty know that their gamers don't want to fund the weapons for real modern warfare.
Super clever bit of activism right there. I love it. Absolutely love it. Lily and Kitty did this project, and again, they're from Nottingham and Trent. It was around graphics, the environment, and service design, like shifting away from the current materials we use into using mushroom and mycelium. Again, if you haven't watched it, there's a fantastic Netflix program around, I think it's called Magnificent or Marvellous, what is it? Fabulous Fungi. It's just genius. Fungi can save us. So check that out. We're into social justice and freedom, and this was a really clever piece of design, really around typography. Check this out.
China. Big country, big cities, but unfortunately big limitations as well. Many of the citizens and foreigners who are living in China are hungry for a free flow of information. They can get over the firewall by using VPNs. However, one of the most commonly known VPN, Freegate, is also censored in China. How can we get to Freegate? What does true freedom mean for people? We introduce TrueType Freedom, the most dynamic font available on Monotype. It gives not only one, but countless gateways by borrowing a series of words that have the same pronunciation in Chinese as freedom and list them through the gate. If one gate is blocked or censored, we have another one, and many more. Posters of the typeface design will be put up on the streets, in international airports, and in flight magazines. Online banners glitched with styles to cheat the cyber police in China, saving and opening them as text files, will get you to the Freegate VPN. For the first time in history, freedom in China will not be censorable. The doors will always stay open.
Even typography can be used to make a difference. Tom was from NTU. He did a beautiful project. That was a photography project and a design project. And he went out into the community and worked with this pottery. You might know it's not that far from here, where it's an adult learning centre. A really lovely piece of reportage work. This is also another. I've got quite a few Nottingham and Trent people in here because I want you to be inspired by your own kind, if you like. Check out this project from Millie.
Ella Kissy Deborah. A 9-year-old girl from South London who died following an asthma attack in 2013 has become the first person in the UK to have air pollution listed as a cause of death.
She was an incredibly healthy child who became ill very suddenly. She suffered greatly. I can say openly, she literally choked to death.
I don't really know exactly, but it's kind of something to do with like a physical stopping of the breathing, I guess.
It's a good question. I don't actually know how you define asthma. It's not sure if it's a disability or a disease.
I think I'd kind of treat it like a panic attack. I looked after people in intensive care and whose lungs had literally collapsed.
I'm not sure I really know what it looks like.
Actually, I know more about EpiPens than I do asthma.
You're struggling to breathe. It's a life or death situation at the end of the day.
And if you're at that serious end of the spectrum, then it is a really serious disease and you need to be taken seriously.
Why weren't our government talking about air pollution instead of the pandemic? Why are we being filled with fear around something like that when they are not doing anything to sort out the polluted cities that we live in? These are the sort of questions that we can be asking as designers and be putting campaigns together to raise awareness. Millions and millions of people die from air pollution every year. Why isn't that in our news? Why isn't the government changing the law to make sure that people don't die from that? Really powerful piece of work. Louise did this project, again, another Nottingham-Trent student. She made a film, actually, a documentary, which I'm not going to run because of time, but she created this project before the Grenfell Tower incident when people in social housing died, and she did an amazing project where she went in to get rid of the stigma of people living in social housing and to give them a voice. It was a really powerful piece of work. She did win an award with us, but she told me afterwards that when she got a job, it was, she believes, because of this piece of work that she created, and she basically just went in and interviewed people and then edited a film together. We can get it sent to you if you're interested, but really lovely, lovely piece of work. And she said, creative conscience massively contributed to the confidence I had in myself and my design work. Before this project, I would never have believed I would have been able to reach out to people or interview unknown individuals, volunteers in their own homes. But the idea of creating something with a purpose and an impact really encouraged me to do so. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit later on, is like, what matters to you? What are you passionate about? Because it's a great place to start. We also, as an organisation, run events. And as I said, we're doing a free online event for any of you who want to ask us questions on the 16th of March. I will give that to your tutors. You can share it on. If you want to join us at 5:30 online, you can ask us any questions about things that matter to you, or if you need any support with any of your projects. And we do a lot of events, this was pre-pandemic, around mental health and well-being. Who in the room has or knows someone who suffers from mental health issues around anxiety, depression, anything like that? Have you yourselves, or you know anyone? Yeah, I mean, it's huge. That's actually the global pandemic that we're dealing with right now. Anyway, this was a little film from an event that we did at the Design Museum on mental health.
Creative Conscience partnered up with the Design Museum in London to hold the first Design Changemakers event on mental health. The purpose of the event was to inspire and engage the next generation of creative thinkers. We showed them what is possible and how we can positively create and build impact around the challenges of mental health. Industry experts and creative graduates shared their game-changing projects. We gathered data to prove the event had impact. We overwhelmingly shifted the audience's perspective on mental health and how we as creative thinkers can positively change our world.
Anxiety, depression.
And there's always someone you can talk to.
Get involved. Join our global movement. creativeconscience.org.uk.
That particular event, Catherine Coates at NUT brought a load of students down to attend that. So, you know, don't feel like you can't get involved with things even in real time. I just want to show you this little project that's done by a student, because some of the things that we've shown you today might feel a bit out of your reach, but something that's really simple can work. Again, Einstein said if you don't understand something enough to explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't understand it. And as designers, quite often we can come up with solutions and we can overcomplicate it. Just keep things simple. And Helen, who created this project, it was all around food waste. So we waste, it's just less than actually a half of all food waste in the world, not just from the developed country, but the developing world, because they can't get their food to market and stuff. And it's the third most important thing that humanity needs to do in order to save our future. Food waste is huge, right? So this project took her probably about 2 hours to do. I'll run it and I'll tell you what we did with it. Just a really, really simple idea. And we shared that with an organisation that works in food waste, and they used that on their social media. She just came up with the idea, and it's just a brilliant metaphor of how ridiculous it is that we chuck nearly 50% of our food away. So I'm going to just show you the sort of things that we're interested in as an organisation in terms of disciplines. We're basically interested in anything that you can put together. It might be a photograph, a series of photographs, it might be a piece of product design or digital tech or experience, anything we're interested in, even stuff which includes sort of music and yard bombing, it doesn't matter. And these are some of the projects from 2 years ago, was it last year, that people sent us that ended up winning awards. Disciplines that we're interested in, but we're also interested in these themes. So anything from mental health to equality to the climate crisis. And these are some projects that were sent to us from, again, the awards. Loads of stuff there. I'm sure there's stuff that you can relate to in some of this stuff. For us as an organisation, again, I was talking to someone, I can't remember who, whether it was you, Pete, I can't remember, about the climate crisis. And although we're faced with a lot of stuff in the news now around the war, as humanity stands, our planet is the most important thing that we need to focus on, because without a planet, none of us have a future. And Lily created this project to try and engage gamers in the climate crisis. So we made this little documentary for, well, this is just part of it, but we made a documentary for the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And here's Lily talking about her project.
My name is Lily Dryden, and I'm a graphic designer. Me and my creative partner, Georgia Lashley, started looking at video games and how there's such a big audience of people there that could really listen to what you had to say. And then we found an issue such as climate change, and we brought the two together. We created a short film. We also then created sort of content to bring out to a protest, such as banners that all entwine together to raise awareness for climate change.
Game over.
It was called Obligation. I think that creativity allows people to talk about things in a language that they can understand. My creativity allowed me to talk to a group of people in a way that they listened. I think if the world uses more creative means to communicate things, it will create bigger listeners, bigger communities, and a stronger way to solve these problems. We, towards the end of the project, had this sort of sense of empowerment. My advice would be to other people that want to create change to fuel this desire to create change as much as you can, talk to people, read about it, and although at times it might feel frustrating, just know that there are communities that are out there that will listen. It mattered because now there's lots of conversations around climate change and it can feel overwhelming, and I think it was important to make sure that other people in that position felt like they had a sort of way to express themselves, or sort of a means to not feel the way that we did and feel like there can be stuff to be done to save this.
Thank you, Lily. So as an organisation, we support Extinction Rebellion, XR. We have a small agency called Ellen Co., which is a B Corp agency. If you don't know about B Corp, check that out. It's like an ethical certification for agencies. So when you do find you want to go and work somewhere, when you leave college, look for B Corp. It's there'll be organisations that are really sound. And we also talk that we talk about that we're out and on climate strike and stuff like that, because it's only really through three things that we can change the world right now. Jonathan Porritt, who's one of our ambassadors, he's a politician he was a politician and a climate activist, says we need government to change, we need brands to change, but we also need civil disobedience. That's us, right? So we can take to the streets and shout and scream. We might get locked up for it now because of the new legislation that they've put through, but if we all take to the streets, they can't put like a couple of million people in jail, can they? So, yeah, anyway. Sadly, the creative sector hasn't traditionally been focused on ethics. It's no one's fault, it's just the way the system has been built. It's not a failed system. I hear people saying, oh, the system's failed. It hasn't failed. It has been designed to serve the few. That's what the current capitalist system has been designed. It's just not broken, it's been designed that way. So we as individuals can make a difference by taking to the streets. Anyway, so what will happen is you might decide that you want to use your talent for a greater good, right? You have a choice, you might not, you might choose to, and you'll leave the comfort of education, you'll go out into the world, and you'll go, well, where are all the great agencies that are making a difference? Well, there aren't really that many, sadly. It might be different in a few years when you leave, but currently it's not an area that our industry is focused on. So I want to finish with this story by these two lads called Nathan and Sam Smith. They weren't brothers, but they were working in an agency in London. I'm not going to name the agency, but that agency had no corporate social responsibility. None! Disgraceful. No corporate social responsibility. And those lads were working there when the Brexit vote came in. And neither of them were very happy about Brexit. So what they decided to do was to write to designers and illustrators and typographers all across the UK and Europe and invite them to send them a postcard of what they thought of Brexit. And to their utter amazement, this was the response they got. They got over 130 postcards from designers from all over Europe and the UK illustrating what they felt about Brexit. And because of that, they were picked up by the design press and they wrote a story about them in Creative Review, I believe it was. They were then invited to Turin to exhibit those postcards in Italy. They were then nominated and accepted in the Beazley Designer Year of the Awards, and their work was exhibited in the Design Museum for 3 months. It absolutely transformed their career. They created a book called Me EU, and they were junior designers in an agency that had no ethics, no social anything. But what happened was, one of the founders of that agency came to those lads and said, why aren't we doing this kind of work? So even though you might go into a system which you don't necessarily agree with, you can still create change in the system. And that's partly why we set up Creative Conscience, was to train you guys to be stealth fighters, to enter an industry which didn't, especially 10 years ago, give a flying fig about the future of any of us. So what if, and I mentioned this before, what if today we can create impact without even leaving our seats? What would that feel like? It would feel good, right? So I want to talk to you about some things that you can do if you choose to. You can get your pens and paper out. We can take this offline. We can write a list of things that we could choose to leave, right, to do. You can put it in your notebook or in your phone. You might choose to look at what energy suppliers you have. You could look at how you might inspire other people, just simply having a conversation with them, right? I wear this jacket, right? It's a bit embarrassing. It's a bit shit, probably. It's a bit mad. Okay, it's got an XR stamp on the back that I put on the back. And this jacket is probably, well, it's definitely older than you in the room. It's probably from the 70s. It's quite well made, I would say. And there are people that funk it up. It's got like H&M and different brands on it. And they've recreated this vintage jacket into a piece of activism. And I wear it when I go out and people say, oh, I like your jacket. And then what that means is that I can then have a conversation with them about fast fashion, which is the second largest polluter on the planet. Please, please don't buy your clothes from Primark. You are drinking your own poison if you choose to get your clothes from that organisation and other organisations. They are destroying your future. So you could choose to wear something that is a piece of activism, or you could say, right, I'm not going to buy any fast fashion for the next 6 months. I'm going to get all my clothes from eBay or from vintage shops or second-hand shops or charity shops. You'll have made a difference, and then you can have a conversation with someone about that. You could take a plastic water challenge and say, I'm not going to use any plastic bottles for the next week. See what it feels like. It can be fun having a challenge. It might be that you choose not to use some certain type of tech for a day, a week, a year. What would that feel like? I've talked about the clothes. You might decide to choose your diet, change your diet. Like, what if you didn't eat meat for a day a week, 2 days a week? What if you chose not to eat meat again? I don't know. What would that look like? What would that feel like? Might save yourself a lot of money. How do you choose to travel? Well, we haven't been able to travel, but how do you move around the world? All these things make a difference. And you all have a choice. Who would agree? You live in a country where you have a choice, right? You are really fortunate. You can choose what you wear, what you eat, how you move. And that's incredible, right? So, this last point, I don't read because I'm dyslexic. I've really struggled to read. I can barely read and write. I'll admit to that. But I listen now to books, and I listened to this book by Jonathan Porritt called Hope in Hell. And in that book, he talks about I think the 6 largest tech companies in the world. And I think it's 4 or 5 of them that we use on a daily basis, actively and aggressively avoid paying tax. In this country alone, that is worth millions and millions of pounds. Imagine if they paid their tax. We'd have a great health service, we'd probably have free education, we wouldn't have student loans. It would transform our society. And yet we choose to use these organisations and their products every single day. And one of those organisations is a search engine that I'm not going to mention because I don't want to get sued. But it's a search engine. There's even a verb for it, and I think I've used it, so apologies for that. It's a search engine, and these guys don't pay their taxes in this country. They actively and aggressively avoid paying tax in this country. But Ecosia, this search engine, which you can put on your phone and on your laptop for nothing, will mean that while you are searching the internet, you are supporting the planting of trees all over the world. And not only that, that your data is not being farmed to sell you shit that you don't need. So you can be doing good while searching the internet, and all you have to do is download Ecosia onto your laptop, onto your phone, and then keep searching. But it's only when we become conscious to what's happening in the world can we choose to make those choices and stop supporting the people that are keeping us in this terrible place. So, are any of you interested in committing to any of those challenges? Are you actually interested in, if you felt inspired by this talk, to then take action? Because if you don't, remember, inspiration is perishable. Choose to leave the room today, this afternoon, this evening. Change your search engine. Change your bank. Decide to think and eat and buy differently, and you will support your own future. So I'm going to run this one last film before we stop and have a break. It's an amazing film that was created by a filmmaker, but it wasn't created alone. We are a community of creative thinkers, and we can really make powerful change if we choose to collaborate with each other. And this is a brilliant, brilliant film where he collaborated with people. Here we go, watch this.
I'm a 28-year-old white South African male. That's all you need to know about me to form an immediate opinion. But what if I am you and you are me? What if we are everybody? Connected not through blood, but bound by survival. This idea is what brought together 100 filmmakers from 100 different countries around the globe. 100 opinions, one goal. Hey, who are you? Like in a casual way. Who are you actually? Let's start right at the beginning. You're definitely human, unless you're watching this really far into the future. And in that case, hello new species. If you have access to this video, you have routine. It may not be structured, but you eat when you're hungry and you sleep when you're tired. You have a dream, the need to feel somewhat significant, which you are, but you need to know it. Adventure and uncertainty keep you wondering, keep you curious to learn. But most importantly, you need connection. Connection to people, now more than ever. The point of the imagery on the screen is to showcase the unseen. Hidden in plain sight, a lens with no boundaries, no script, just 100 filmmakers with a dream. Across 100 different cultures from east to west. Imagery untouched, unprocessed. Look at all these people. Look at this man smiling at his son. That feeling you felt right there, that's called connection. In a world of organized chaos, chaos organized to keep you from imagining a world that hasn't been advertised. Characterized not by your disguise, but loved for what's inside. Ever wondered how dancing to music is speaking every language at once? Imagine a world with no language, only feeling. Who then would be the most gifted? The world needs to reimagine love. Not the Shakespearean understanding, love is blind, but rather imagine the world as one, like Lennon's mind. Who are you? This should not be defined by an act. If you couldn't start with your qualification, status, or job, what would you answer to that? You are a divine being. You are love. You are made up of one lifetime, well, on Earth at least. Just as day moves into night, you're growing older. Make change before it's too late. The smallest gestures are where change begins. Therefore, make them great. Now ask yourself, who am I? Really? And what are you going to do with that to make change? The thing is, you've just started.
I'm going to ask you guys the exact same question. Who are you? What are you going to do to create change? We've been built by a community, a big community, and we're here to support you in anything you want to do that aligns with our values. So please, please get in touch with us. You can write to us. If you write to us, I promise you that someone from our organisation will get in touch. It might take us a few days, but we will answer any of your questions. We are here to support you if you choose to use your talent to serve people and planet. Thank you so much for turfing up this morning. I really appreciate it. I know it's not easy on a Monday morning to be somewhere at 9:30. We are super grateful to you for listening, for being in the room, and I'm very happy to hang around and talk to any of you. So thank you, and well done for making it to the room. Please also, follow us on Instagram. We are a community. You can write to us there if you've got any questions. And again, thank you so much for showing up. Take care. Brilliant. Thank you. Well done. Okay, so what happens now? I'm not going to disappear. Just move to one
Does
side.
anyone have any questions for Chrissy while she's here?
I've asked you a lot of questions. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. Hello.
Hi, Chrissy. My name is Gabi. So, no problem. Take your time. So my question is, all the issues you have talked about and everything that Creative Conscience is, trying to tackle or address or make us aware are like really important. How do you said you went to your mom's house and you broke down. How do you replenish your energy to get back into it? Because it feels like depression is the disease of 2021, I assume so.
Yeah, it's our real pandemic, isn't it?
Yes.
And when we're shut down, great question, thank you, Rebbe. When we're shut down and we're in fear about stuff, it, like I said, it stops us from being the change we can be in the world. When you're full of fear, depression is something that I can say I've suffered from personally throughout my life. And it's very common, actually, for creative thinkers to have... We're quite sensitive quite often. Anyone feel quite sensitive? You take things on, empaths, right? So there's lots and lots of things we can do to stop that burnout and that feel. So I have a mantra, and that mantra is, we've got to stand in the light, right? We have to retain this idea of standing in the light, to be positive and not let that stuff that we are being fed by the media get to us, right? So my advice to all of you is, don't engage with mainstream news. Just don't go there. Don't listen to it. First thing, right? I get my news personally through something called Friday Night Comedy on Radio 4, and from Have I Got News for You, which is on the BBC, because then I hear the news through the lens of humour, and that doesn't get me down. So there are things you can do so you can be informed, but you don't let the bastards grind you down, right? So society, I might sound like a conspiracy theorist, I'm not, but we can only be controlled if we're in fear, right? So if we're in a state of anxiety all the time, we're not going to want to create change. We're not going to want to design a new world or be powerful enough to make change because we're in fear. So that would be my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice, this is what I do, because just to help my own depression, is I have a gratitude journal. So every day I write down a few things that I'm grateful for. This is a practice, actually, that they use with people with addictions as well, like alcoholics and stuff, and it's a really powerful tool. You simply put down 3 things or 5 things that you are grateful for. It could be the fact that I've got some water and tea, that I've got some clothes to wear, that I'm in a warm place, I've got family. It doesn't matter, the simpler things, so that helps you stay in the light, right? If we're going to stay in the light. This is a bit extreme, but you could do this if you want to. For me, personally, I take a cold shower and a bath instead of a hot one, right? That is proven to help our immune system and our mental health. So you might be in the hot shower, just at the end, give yourself a bag of cold shower. That helps our mental health. There's a lot of things that we can do. What we eat, like sugar, is really poisonous for us. So try and reduce the amount of sugar that you have in your diet. be in service to other people, help other people. That, again, we've got the research and data as our organisation. When you help someone else, it makes you feel better. It's genius. There's lots and lots of things, but look, I get it. I get what you're saying, Rabbi. It's tricky, especially if you're working in an environment where you're dealing with social and environmental issues. You just got to stand in the light and do everything you can to have people around you who aren't moany and grumbly and gossipy and stuff like that. Find your tribe and be influenced and supported by that tribe. That would be my advice to you. Find like-minded people. Yeah, I hope that's been helpful. Actually, we have a little YouTube, channel on that. There are some things around mental health that you could watch that, and it will give you some of the sort of ideas. I actually meditate as well, which I refused to do for decades, and I wish I'd started meditation when I was younger. And I read lots of positive stuff and sort of positive affirmations and stuff like that. Deepak Chopra is a brilliant meditation guru. So yeah, just don't let the bastards grind you down. Don't let life grind you down. Stand in the light. I hope that's helpful. Good question. Well done. No one ever asks any questions. Has anyone got any questions? Yes. What's your name, lovely? Sorry? Sorry to hear you. You're going to get a mic.
My name is Andre.
All right. Good to meet you, Andre.
So my question... My question is...
no staring him out.
So your association creates campaigns for, I guess, sustainable problems. I want to know, in your circle or your group, do you have people that, I guess, on, let's say, the other side of the topic so that you can have a more diverse...
Open dialogue with, that's a brilliant question. Yeah, of course. We're always trying to engage with people who think differently. It's otherwise you sit in an echo chamber, right? You've got to be able to listen to both sides of any story. So we have to understand the people that we disagree with, why they think, in order to create a systemic change around what their issues are. And that's partly one of the major problems, really good question, in the world today, is this sort of polarization. So we've seen it in the US with Trump and everything. Like, actually, I'm not supposed to talk about politics too much, so ignore that, cross that. But we're not allowed to talk about it because we're a charity, so we're not really allowed to talk about politics. But it's so important that you interview and you connect with the people that don't agree with you, so you understand what they're thinking in order then to design and communicate in a really journalistic way. It's absolutely important. So yes, we have conversations with people who we might not necessarily agree with in order to understand how we can make changes in the world, because we have to take them with us on our journey. Do you have a particular project that you would like to design against, Arjun? Not at the moment. Okay, well, we can chat about that off stage if you want. But really brilliant question. Well done. Vital people that you talk to those people that you are opposing in order to understand where they're coming from and what their story is. Brilliant question. Anyone else? Yes. Wow, I can't believe all these questions. Usually no one says anything. And that's really embarrassing because I'm standing here like a... Hello.
Hi, I'm Faye.
Hello, Faye.
Hi. When you're dealing with these different campaigns, and the one about the COVID issues and everything else quite struck with me, did you get, or do you get a lot of hate from people? Even though, you know, that open discussion is great, but yes. Do you get a lot of hate? And if so, how do you deal with that? Because I've had a lot of people close to me that have thrown things back, and it's really hard to then keep going with what you know is right.
Yes, I hear you. Well, because I don't really get involved with taking on board other people's stuff, maybe that's a bit he, me, but or us. I don't think we've really. I don't think we really had people being kind of hateful. I think it's trying to understand where they're coming from. Going back to Arden's question, it's like, okay, so someone's reacting really badly to something that we've put out in the world. What's going on for them? So trying to find compassion with them and not make it personal to you. So that's quite a big ask, right? Because you've got to rise up, you've got to be the bigger person. So I would say, listen, have empathy and compassion in what they're trying to say, understand where they're coming from, and be open to that, and then keep moving forward on what you believe is true. Because people don't know what they don't know. Does that sound a bit mad? I learned that through philosophy. You know, you can't expect people to understand something that they don't understand themselves. If they're being fed all that fear-driven, maybe you can expand on the project or what you were doing.
No, it was just in general.
In general, around the pandemic stuff.
Yeah, I'm quite open to looking at all the alternatives and the different ways of dealing with what we're dealing with.
Yes. And they'd get upset and say, "Ooh, you shouldn't be saying that," and we've all got to hide inside and be fearful.
How do you go with that campaign when you know it's the right campaign to do?
I think it's if you've got the research and the data and you know, like we could see, like millions and millions of people were recovering from this thing, and yet the stats that we were being fed, they weren't even true. And so if you can do a deep dive and find out what you think or understand to be true, and you know that, and you've got that data, then that in itself should just say, okay, I'm going to let them be. They don't know what they don't know, so I mustn't judge them. And because they're being unpleasant to me, that's their story. It's not about me, it's their story. And just keep going. And that's how we change the world, isn't it? By just keep it's one step at a time.
If you really want to stop, you think, right, I can't keep seeing that.
I hear
can't
you.
keep having that.
Yeah, just move away from that energy, if you like. Keep doing what you're doing, and then just avoid the subject with those particular people. They're not wise enough. They don't have the education or the insight that you have. And there's no judgment, it's just they're different. And you've got to just know that if you take one step, one conversation at a time, one person at a time, that's how we change the world. That's how we hit critical mass, is really through education. And I don't mean like formal education like this. I mean just having a chat with someone on the bus, walking around with a funny looking jacket on it, getting a keep cup, just show up in the world how you want to be. It's not about preaching to people, it's about just being you.
Question, and that's what I found difficult, when people were questioning why I was questioning.
Yeah. But that's the thing. So I had a big row with my mum it wasn't with my mum. I turned up to see my mum, and it was when we were in kind of lockdown-ish. And I felt personally it was more important that she, even though she was 90, she had a human connection, because that when we connect with each other, even when we hug, our cortisol levels drop, our immune system. So I was like, I'm going to go and see my mother. I'm sorry. She was fine with it. She didn't care. She was running around like a lunatic during lockdown. She didn't want to spend the last year of her life in prison. She said, I might only have 1 year to live. Why am I going to lock myself in my flat, Anyway, I went down to see her on this particular occasion, and my brother had driven from Kent. Now, I turned up. There was only supposed to be one of us in her flat at the time, and he was there. And I came in, I was on my bike, I got the tray, I walked in, and he went ballistic. He wouldn't come in the room where I was sitting with my mother. He started stumping up and down, like Rumpelstiltskin, really getting upset. And I said, "Oh, Martian, don't be so stupid, it's fine. Don't call me stupid." He went ballistic. He got really angry, upset, screamed and shouted a lot, and stormed out of my mother's flat. I think it might have said that, Martin, you've already broken the law because you've driven more than 40 miles to be here, right? I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So he wasn't very happy with me because he had, years ago, trained as a lawyer, but then he'd given it up. So the law is really important to my brother Martin. I've got loads of brothers, by the way. He's number 2. He's quite uptight, let's say. Anyway, so he had already broken the law to see my mother. And when I told him that, he wasn't happy. And he left, and I was very upset because he'd upset my mum. And I sat with my mum, and I said, oh, I'm sorry. She said, you need to apologise. I said, yeah, I'm very happy to apologise to him. And she said, you know, we have to listen to the law. Really? Or even if you think the law's an arse, you think we need to listen to the law. Yes, we need the law. We need the law. We need people not to drive 100 miles an hour on the train, on the roads. We need them to. I said, yes, Mum. I absolutely get that we need the law. But when the law is an ass, you need to be okay to break it. And I believe there are some things in our legal system that are an ass, right? And she said, no, we still need to. I said, look, she's like 92 now. She had the vote. She has the vote in this country because women died to get the vote. They broke the law. I said to her, they broke the law during the civil rights movement. Rosa Parks sat on that bus. She broke the law. We have to break the law in order to change things, right? There are people who work for XR who get arrested. They break the law, but they are doing it peacefully. It's civil disobedience. They're not running around with Molotov cocktails and killing people. So I think when I explained that to her, if we don't break the law, if they didn't break the law, you wouldn't have the vote, Mum. We wouldn't be living in the society that we live today. So I think that we need to question the law and what society is doing, and then make the right choices, informed, educated, research choices, and do that, and just find people that can support you, like us or other. Lots of brilliant organisations, there's lots of brilliant communities in Nottingham-on-Trent. It's an amazing, amazing city, and it's got lots of brilliant social projects going on. So I hope that's helped. You can always drop me a line and I'll have a chat with you on the phone to keep you on the straight and narrow. Okay. Oh, I think we're probably out of time. Oh, is there any more questions?
Sorry, guys, just going to have to start wrapping up now, if that's okay.
Okay, we can have a chat after. All right. All right, brilliant. Thank you so much. Great questions, and thanks for turning up, people. I'm going to unplug my thing. Or we coming back in here later? Or what's going on? Okay, we're going. All right. All right, well done, people. Get out there. Make some trouble.